It feels like a bit of an understatement to say that people have been waiting for Final Fantasy 15 for a long time. It has technically been in development for 10 years, as of course it did begin life as Final Fantasy Versus 13, a PS3 exclusive spin-off. And of course the current version of the game that's releasing in September has only been in development for 3 years, but the anticipation for this game, which of course has gone through a lot of changes since it now is of course Final Fantasy 15, has been anticipated for 10 years. So the amount of hype surrounding this game is kind of crazy, and Hajime Tabata, who of course is the director of the franchise and this particular game in particular, spoke with Game Informer, and he shared his thoughts on the current gaming landscape, as well as some pretty honest truths about the general perception the series faces, and the tough position that Final Fantasy is finding itself in as a franchise. He's basically saying that Final Fantasy 15 is a, quote, make or break moment for the franchise, especially in Japan. Now, he said, quote, it is a more grave and serious situation than we had initially thought. For Japan, I believe it is a make or break for the franchise, and if the Final Fantasy brand is on its demise in terms of numbered mainline series within Japan, then I feel it would also follow suit globally. The Japanese console game market is definitely getting smaller, and that directly connects to the fact that the demand for consoles and console games are declining. At the same time, that means a decline in the Final Fantasy IP. Now, he also kind of clarified some comments he made last month in an interview with the magazine Famitsu. Now, you might remember that he said that Square Enix is hoping to sell 10 million copies of the game. Now, basically, that 10 million is not how many copies the game needs to sell to be profitable, just how many the team and studio would like it to sell. And basically, Tabata is insisting in the interview that numbered games in the series might be done if Final Fantasy 15 is unsuccessful. So, you know, no pressure or anything, and as disappointing and as worrying as this is, especially for fans of the Final Fantasy franchise like myself, I don't find it all that surprising. Because Final Fantasy 13, 13-2, and especially 13-3 were not that well received in terms of the criticism and feedback that the games received. Final Fantasy 13 especially, as we know, is probably one of the most hated games in the series. 13-2 was a bit better, but I haven't actually played 13-3 myself because I kind of lost interest in that particular spin-off, to be quite honest. I have heard nothing but bad things about that game. And given how Square is kind of notorious for spending huge amounts of money on the pretty engines and all sorts of things, I'm not surprised that 3 games that weren't well received, at least in comparison to their previous titles, mean that, hey, they might actually have to bury Final Fantasy 15 numbered titles if it doesn't keep up with their expectations. Now, that does mean we might still get spin-offs like the Dissidia games and get similar games to Crisis Core and that sort of thing. But it's still not a good sign that Final Fantasy is literally teetering on the edge of a cliff right now, and I do worry for the future of Final Fantasy. Yes, it's not quite as good as it used to be, but I don't hate Final Fantasy 13 or 13-2. They were a huge departure from what we know and love about Final Fantasy. They were okay. Final Fantasy 13-2 was better, but the characters were not that great. And Final Fantasy 13, they had some okay characters, but the combat sucked balls, so yeah. Final Fantasy 15 is definitely a lot better. It's actually kind of what I wanted for the combat of Final Fantasy for a long time, although I know my opinion is not one shared by most traditional Final Fantasy fans who would rather the active system that we saw in like 9 or 10, for example. I personally hope that Final Fantasy 15 is successful, not only for the future of Final Fantasy as a franchise, but also because based on the demo that I played, and of course that was the first demo, that was ages ago, so obviously the game might have changed a lot since then. It is definitely a promising game and very pretty. Hopefully it comes out on PC. You know, more platforms is better for you, Square, just saying. So, a bit iffy for Final Fantasy, so fingers crossed. Some would argue maybe it's better for the series to die rather than keep churning out sequels, but I'm going to have to see. Thank you very much for watching. Do let me know your thoughts. I'll see you next time.